Welcome to the Wise Defender podcast. My name is Andrew Kohler. We like to talk about guns, nerd out about training, and all that kind of fun stuff here. So hopefully you're buckling up and you're ready to get started. We do have two new segments that we're going to be introducing. The first one is Show Me Your Gun, which not too hard to figure out. It's basically show and tell, but with guns. The other one is Reactive Shooter. And basically that segment, it's kind of a play on words if you're familiar with predictive and reactive shooting, which we're not going to get into that right now. But basically it's a segment where we react to crazy gun stuff that we find on the internet. Should be a good time. I am all by my lonesome here in the studio today, but we're going to have fun regardless. So let's get into it. Our main topic is what to do if you feel like you've hit your plateau as a shooter. I'm very passionate about this. I think that this is going to be very helpful for anybody on the spectrum of beginner to intermediate. So super stoked. But before we get to our main topic, let's start with Show Me Your Gun. I today brought the Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS. You probably were like, I thought he was going to talk about the Barrett. Maybe someday. But this is my carry gun. It's a Glock. It's a Glock. It does Glock stuff. I run this thing very stock. The only thing that's not stock is this weird little plate. This weird little plate on the back that you can see. It's called the gadget. And basically what this does is as you pull the trigger, you're not going to be able to see very well on the camera from back there. But as you pull the trigger, it starts to push that plate back. So if you had your thumb on the back of the gun while you're reholstering and something got in the holster and the trigger started to get pulled, you'd be able to feel that. You could even, push against it. Like right now I can't pull the trigger. But then if I, take my thumb off of that plate, the trigger pulls just fine. So that's that. It's a fun little device. Not super necessary, but it's kind of cool. Stock trigger, stock everything. I'm missing my front sight because it literally fell off the gun. I don't even know where. It's probably in the middle of the woods somewhere, or just chilling on the street. I don't even know. I never put it back on because obviously I run a red dot. This is the Hollow Sun letter number. I don't know. I don't have them all memorized. HS507C X2. My goodness. Why can't they just give them, like normal names, like the Samurai or the, I don't know, the Stallion, whatever. So this is the collaboration with Primary Arms with the ACSS Vulcan reticle, which I love. Highly recommend it. I'm not going to go into a bunch of details about this optic right now. I'll probably save that for another one. But I love this. I love this dot, and I think it's also a great dot for new shooters to learn on as well because of the ring that it has. I'm getting into it. I said I wasn't going to get into it. I'm getting into it. It's a cool dot. Look into it. We'll talk about it at some point. I have the TLR8 on here. This is not the A series because that didn't exist back when I got this. So. This is what I have, so that's what I'm using. But overall, this gun is just very plain, and hey, it runs, baby. So I know we talk a lot about concealed carry and personal defense on this podcast. So I figured, hey, for the first time we do a Show Me Your Gun, I should do my carry gun. So I did. Okay. Now let's get into our main topic. What do you do if you feel like you're plateauing as a shooter in your skill set? We have 5 things that we recommend when you kind of reach that point. You're like, man, my skill level, it's not improving. I saw improvement, but now it's not. What do I do? And this is not an exhaustive list. I am going to be relying a little bit on my notes here, so forgive me if my eyes are down here. I just don't want to miss anything. So first thing is first, you kind of have to figure out for yourself what it is you want to achieve, right? Not all of us want to achieve the same thing per se. if we're talking about self-defense, I think a lot of us should be wanting to achieve similar things, but depending on what your goals are, competition shooting, just becoming a plinker, or self-defense, home defense specifically, church security, there's just kind of the things that we want to train in and want to improve in, that list can shift a little bit. So first you need to figure out what the heck it is that you even want to achieve. Like for example, if you're group shooting and you feel like you've plateaued in your group shooting and you're like, man, how do I become a better group shooter? And if you're unfamiliar with that term, basically it just means that you stand there and you have usually kind of all the time in the world and you just try to get as tight of groups as possible. That's group shooting. I'm not knocking group shooting. It's a necessary skill for new shooters to develop and get good at. At some point, if that's all you're doing, you are limiting yourself. But that's exactly the point of what I want to make here is ultimately, if your goal is self-defense and you're saying, I want to get better at group shooting, I want my groups to be tighter, that's not necessarily a bad goal. But what about recoil management? What about holster draws? What about, muzzle awareness and moving your gun safely around other people? Those are skills that are very important. So figuring out what you want to achieve helps you understand, the thing that I'm really fixating on, is that the only thing I should be fixating on, or should I pull in other things to expand my skill set? Now, of course, none of that is really going to help with your group shooting, getting good at other things per se, but it will make you more well-rounded as at least a self-defender. So, but let's say, no, I know I really do want to get better at group shooting. That brings us to number 2, and that's understanding what the practical standards are for the type of skill that you're plateauing in. For example, if you're shooting 2-inch groups at 15 yards and you want to be shooting 1-inch groups in an A zone, not a bullseye target, but in an A zone on like a competition style target like what's behind me here, then hey, I'm all for having high standards, but your standards might be too high for this specific thing that you're trying to achieve. There's a concept called practical accuracy. What practical accuracy means is, sure, you could take 5 minutes to get a perfect shot right in the center of the A zone, or you could take 5 seconds and get a mediocre shot that's still in the A zone. Maybe it's a little off to the right, maybe it's a little high, maybe it's a little low, but it's still in the A zone. And if you get 1 point, or you get a point for landing a shot in the A zone, you're not going to gain more points by taking more time. Actually, you're going to probably lose points, depending on if you're doing competition shooting or if you're just training for self-defense. The whole point is that you don't get a gold sticker for taking longer to achieve the thing that you were trying to achieve. So practical accuracy means, hey, if I'm getting good enough shots to accomplish the thing that I'm setting out to accomplish, then maybe I don't need to spend too much time really fixating on that specific skill set. Now, what I'm not saying is to not pursue high levels of performance and just say, good enough, moving on. But understanding what your standards are and if you're already meeting them does help you determine where to spend your time and your limited bandwidth. So again, it kind of similar to our first point. Our first point is figuring out kind of what it is you want to achieve. And then number 2 is just figuring out, are your standards realistic? You have a limited amount of time. You have a limited amount of ammo. Probably, right? Unless you just spend all your money on ammo. So understanding, hey, is what I'm doing good enough? Maybe I want to get better at this, but maybe I don't need to get better at this specific skill set. I think we covered that one pretty well. If I were to add anything, I would just want to say, be realistic with the amount of time and the amount of money that you can spend on something, right? Maybe it's possible, like physically possible, for you to get better at a certain skill set, but maybe it would just require a lot of money and a lot of range time and a lot of dry fire time to really increase in that expert level. And if that's something you want to do and that's how you want to spend your resources, that's totally fine. But if you're like, hey man, I got 4 kids and a job and a half, and we just moved and yada yada, then it's like, okay, it's unrealistic for you to think that you can just give all that time to up your skill level. That doesn't mean there's nothing you can do. I mean, this whole list is about things that you can do, but in order to start making progress, you have to figure out if you're even working on the right thing or if your goals are even realistic to begin with. So just throwing that out there. That was number 2. So once you have your goals in mind and a realistic standard, it's time to start analyzing your form. To do this, my recommendation is to do dry fire, to do live fire, and to film yourself while you're doing it. You can have someone with you and tell you what you did. They'll be like, yeah, I mean, you look good. Maybe you were leaning forward too much. I don't know. Like, just film yourself. It's super easy to set up your camera. Camera stands cost like nothing, $10. And set up your phone at the range and film yourself. People might be like, what the heck is he doing? It doesn't matter. Ignore them. It's super helpful, especially if you film yourself in slow motion, to play that back and you'd be like, wow, I have a lot of tension in my shoulders, or I can even kind of see the flinch as it's happening when I shoot, or man, maybe I'm doing something weird with, when I draw, there's a lot of inefficiency or wasted movement. Those are things that you can pick out when you play things back. When my buddies and I go to the range and we're practicing, we're constantly filming each other. And, I'll admit some of that is so we can send those videos to other friends who couldn't be there and brag, but be like, hey, look what you missed out on. We had so much fun. But the primary reason why we film ourselves is so that we can look back and be like, oh wow, when I was done shooting target 1, I waited far too long before I started moving to change positions to shoot target 2. Or man, I saw that I over traveled on a transition from one target to another. That's stuff that in the moment, and maybe you pick up on, but then by the time you finish doing a drill, you're like, wait, what all did I mess up on? I don't really remember. You have the video evidence. It's very helpful. Number 4 is be intentional in your training. We love talking about this. This is one of my favorite topics. Be intentional with your training. Don't just shoot a bunch of ammo. It's funny. People just kind of tend to think that shooting a bunch of ammo over time will just build familiarity with your gun, and familiarity is really all you need. That's a component, and they're not completely wrong. But what I like to say is it's not about your round count, but making your rounds count. Basically what we're trying to say is that you can fire a lot of ammo and not achieve very much, or you can fire very little ammo and achieve a lot. I'm not saying you have to shoot less ammo, but it's just understanding the more intentional you are with the rounds that you do fire, you'll find out very quickly, like, oh wow, I don't need to just dump a bunch of ammo to learn something. And just shooting, hoping that I'm going to become more self-aware of my trigger press and my grip and stuff like that. Like, sure, that does naturally happen over time, but it's a very slow process if there's not very specific things that you're looking for and fundamentals that you're seeking to isolate. So don't feel the pressure of shooting a lot of rounds. It's not about the round count. Instead, it's just about making the rounds count. Number 5, find a good firearms instructor. If you have skill and you've reached a plateau, I'm going to recommend you probably take a private class. there's a lot that you can get out of a structured class with a bunch of other students, as the instructor's walking up and down the line. Sure, you'll be able to, maybe, if they see you doing something, they'll be able to maybe make a comment, but they're not looking so keenly at you, so specifically at you to try to pick out nuances. They got like 20 students, or even on smaller classes, like 10 students to focus on. They're looking for safety violations. They're looking for, large issues in grip stance, holster draw, stuff like that. So if you're plateaued and what you need is nuanced help, those larger class sizes that are structured to a specific curriculum with already pre-planned specific drills, it's just not going to be as much help to you. So private classes are totally great, because normally you would just show up and the instructor says, what do you want to work on? And you're like, hey, I want to get my holster draws down, from a 1.3 seconds to a sub-second, or name a thing. I want to get faster at target transition. They're like, okay, cool. And they can create drills specifically to help you work on those things. And then they can watch you and give you feedback. So that's what I'd recommend, smaller or private class sizes, but involve a firearms instructor, because if you're not at a point where you can just watch a video clip of yourself and immediately pick stuff out, then it's worth consulting a professional. That said, you may need to do classes with a couple different instructors. One instructor may not have all of the right answers. They may even have some helpful things, but you're just going to probably get more out of it with the more opinions that you get and the more experience that you get from different instructors. So don't just go to one instructor, and if you don't see a ton of results from that, expect like, oh, well, it's just not going to work. Like, no, you may need to try a few different instructors. And also, it's also going to take reps. People also make the mistake of going to a class and thinking, okay, now that I know some new information and I've practiced something, for an hour on a range with a professional, I'm going to be better now. This is now my new normal. Even if you see improvements in yourself in the class, I'm sorry to tell you, that's not your new normal. You were maybe over the process of warming up with that instructor for an hour, you were able to achieve a certain level of performance, but that's not your new cold start, right? And most of us, that's what we're going for, is a better cold start. If you're not familiar with that term, that means exactly what it sounds like. Coming up cold without having any warm-up practice, what is the level that I'm able to perform at? So, cold start, it's often gets used with holster draw times, first shot after a stimulus. So you hear the buzzer and you draw your gun, you take your first shot. What was your time? Bill drills, also pretty common, but you can use it for anything. You can use it for engaging targets at distance, doing target transitions, all kinds of stuff. Basically, your question is, when I show up to the range, what's my on-demand performance that I can achieve? And we all want to improve that, but recognize going to a class, even doing a private session, is not going to instantly up your level. It gives you information. It helps maybe walk you through that process and see, this is what proper form looks like, feels like. But then it's really up to you to take that, go dry fire, again, video yourself when you're dry firing, and be like, okay, he told me to stop moving my shoulder so much when I drew my gun, and I was moving my shoulder all over the place. I need to be more intentional about that. So that practice in between, at home doing dry fire, super important. Okay, let's keep going. So those are our five things that we recommend. I do have a bonus tip in here for you guys. I'm just hopefully I'm not stepping on any toes, but I just want to say, your issue is probably not gear, but your issue might be your gear. What I mean by that is, there are certain pieces of equipment that can instantly level up your performance. That said, most people who get a gun think that any gun upgrade is just going to make them a better shooter. And it's really not true. There are things that can help, but you really only notice the help, with exception of a few items. You really only notice the help of those upgrades if you have usually like an intermediate skill level where you can be very consistent, and the benefit of those upgrades are usually kind of nuanced. There are a few, though. These are the few that I think are kind of the exception. There are pieces of equipment that I really do think can instantly level up your abilities. Number one is a red dot, if we're talking about shooting pistol. I guess if we're talking about shooting anything, rifle or pistol, an optic or a red dot specifically, very, very helpful. There's a lot of information that you can glean from shooting with a red dot, specifically training with one, even dry firing. But your ability to make precise shots gets just a lot better. And there's a crowd out there that says red dots are unnecessary on handguns. You can do just fine with iron sights, and or just as good. Man, sure, I guess not really. I'm sorry, I disagree. Like in theory, sure, and you may be extremely talented with iron sights. That's great. I would argue, even if you're just amazing with iron sights, you're going to be even better with red dot. That's where I stand. There was an individual who I was teaching them how to shoot. It was kind of a casual thing. It was more of like we're hanging out, but he's like, "Teach me to shoot," and it's like, all right, sure. 5 minutes with that individual, just going over the basics of grip. We barely talked about trigger press. And he shot his gun, didn't do great. It was a single stack. It was a Springfield XDS, I think. And then I was like, here, shoot my Glock with the red dot. And he stacked holes just with a little bit of coaching on grip and a gun with a red dot. He had better performance there than anyone else, which I thought was cool, especially being a new shooter, which meant he was being very consistent, but having that optic allowed him to do something that he was struggling to do with the other gun. But another factor from that same story, this is something else that can help you level up, is making sure that your gun is the right size. If you have large hands and you're shooting a small gun and that gun just has too much room to move around in your hands, that could be creating issues for you. And maybe you're not reaching the plateau of your abilities, but just your abilities with that specific gun. Likewise, if the gun is too big in your hands and you're like, man, I just struggle to control this thing, maybe getting a slightly smaller gun, not smaller overall in size, but more so in grip size, that could maybe be helpful for you. It's definitely worth looking into. Go to a range that has some rentals, try a few different things. And again, a good quality firearm instructor should be able to look at you and be like, I don't think that gun you're shooting is doing you too many favors. And hopefully they have some guns you can try, or they'll kind of point you in the right direction. But same thing with that guy in the example I gave. He was shooting a small gun too small for him. I gave him, this gun I wouldn't consider this an ergonomic gun, but the double stack firearm, he said, wow, I feel like I can grip this so much better. And his performance agreed with that statement. The last thing, performance triggers. Now, this is not, I'm not intending to start a debate on grip priority versus trigger press priority or anything like that. And if you don't know what that means, then it's okay. Maybe we'll do a conversation about that some other time. But ultimately, if the gun you have has a not great trigger, that could be something that's limiting your performance. I like to encourage people to get good at pulling a trigger at all before upgrading. But at the end of the day, the goal is to get rounds on target and get you to hit. And if the trigger you have is just not great and you're struggling to be successful with it, and upgrading will help you, then do what you got to do. Just recognize that some aftermarket triggers can affect the reliability of a gun. So make sure you're doing your research. Okay, let's summarize this. I'm going to cheat and look at my notes a little bit. Okay, so your first thing is you want to create personal goals by understanding what it is that you actually want to accomplish, right? Once you have that level of focus, it becomes a lot easier for you to attack the areas where you're plateauing. And then make sure that your goals are realistic. Is it something that you can actually achieve with the resources that you have available to you, i.e. your time and your money? And then film yourself to see if you can identify any gaps that you have. And then be intentional in your training. Again, it's not about the round count, it's about making the rounds count. I swear I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. And then the last one is find a firearms instructor who can help you see things that you're not seeing and provide a professional opinion. And then our bonus tip is don't blame the gear, but understand that, if there's any low-hanging gear fruit, upgrades that can help in some ways. Just remember, though, that nice equipment will never be a substitute for good training. It's just a fact. So if you get all the nicest stuff and then you don't put in the time to train with it, you're really not going to get the benefit of that. So, again, this is a stock Glock, and I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I shoot it just fine, right? I can be proficient with this gun. Sure, would bells and whistles make me a better shooter? Honestly, I'm kind of at that point where I'm playing around with other pistols to see if I can squeeze just a little more performance out of myself with a gun that comes stock with an upgraded trigger, has a slightly more ergonomic grip, some of that stuff. But, adding a compensator. So, I've tried to keep it stock for as long as possible just to see what am I made out of? What kind of performance can I bring to the gun? Not what kind of performance can a gun bring to me. So yeah, just don't rely too much on the Gucci gear. I hope this helps. I had fun talking about this. I think it's important to recognize that you've even plateaued in the first place. A lot of shooters don't. A lot of gun owners don't even go out and practice with their gun to begin with. So if you're the kind of individual who's getting out there and practicing frequently or semi-frequently, then good on you. That makes me super jazzed. But even people who practice, they always practice. Always is not a fair word. I won't say always, but they often practice in their comfort zone. So they're not really growing in their skill level. They're just saying like, oh, I can get a tight group from this distance, and so that's the distance they always shoot from. They're not pushing themselves. But it's the people who do push themselves that really will notice, hey, I've reached a plateau. I keep pushing myself, but I just can't get past this barrier, shooting at this speed or at this distance or whatever it might be for you. So hopefully if you kind of go by this list, you'll unlock some extra superpowers for yourself. And that's just how it goes. I mean, we all reach a plateau at some point, and you even just need to be honest with yourself and say like, okay, I reached a plateau. Am I just reaching my personal limits, and are those limits okay? But again, this will hopefully help with that. All right, moving on. That was our main topic. Our last segment. This is again a new segment, reactive shooter. The reactive shooter segment. I'm excited for this one. This one's kind of crazy. I'll put this up on the screen. So there was a drug bust in the lovely city of Portland. Headline is woman wanted man arrested after cocaine cache gun seized in Portland drug bust. Man, I swear they get more more credit for the fewer words they use. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. The description underneath the image actually helps. A woman and a wanted man were arrested in Northeast Portland on May 14th after police search warrants yielded large amounts of cocaine, cash, and illegal firearms. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. We're looking at the images. I just want to, honestly, I haven't even read the story. I don't even care. I don't care about the story. I care about the guns, though. This is super fascinating to me. Why is it that criminals always have the weirdest guns? Like this AK with the thumbhole stock? Like, what? What is that? I mean, it's not. Is it a California AK? I don't even know. It's just weird. And then that 22, I don't even know what model of 22 that is. That's interesting to me, though. It's like, okay, out of all the 20, why a 22? What's that going to do for you with a scope on it? And I don't know. I'm a Ruger 1022 guy myself, so if I'm going to go that direction, I'm not saying that I'm going to go do something with cocaine and cash, I'm just saying, like, that's a weird, out of all the guns, why that one? That AR is kind of the most normal looking thing here, and they have a fixed triangle front sight. If you know me, you know that I'm a flat top rail kind of guy, a rail that extends all the way across your uppers is where it's at. Welcome to 2025. So, I mean, hey, at least they have M-LOK on it. It looks like, I don't even know what AR that is, what manufacturer, but it looks like an okay gun. Yeah, whatever. The one that gets me is the AR pistol. Like, what? why do you have that? I mean, if you wanted a short-barreled AR, like, I don't know why they didn't just put a stock on it. It's as if they were like, oh, we're not going to put a stock on an AR pistol. That would make it an illegal SBR, and we don't want to break the law while we're breaking the law. Like, that's not cool. I don't understand the logic. I truly don't get it. It looks like either a Taurus Judge or a Smith & Wesson Governor. I can't really tell. I don't know if Taurus made a stainless steel version of the Judge. It may be a Smith & Wesson. I know that they made a stainless. I don't think the Governor comes in black. It might only be stainless. And then there's a 1911. I can't tell what 1911 it is, but I'm guessing it's not by everything else we're seeing here, it's probably not a top-end 1911. It's just funny. It's like, okay, you got a bunch of weird guns. You have a shotgun revolver, an AR pistol with no stabilizing anything on the back, a 1911, which is, I don't know. So I don't want to. I could feel it already. I was about to offend a lot of people by the comment I was about to make about the 1911. A scoped 22 and then an AK with a thumbhole stock. I don't know, man. Like, I keep Portland weird, I guess, but that's too much for me. If you have any of these guns, it's okay. You can have these guns. I'm just trying to understand what's the thought process of someone who's committing crimes and why they chose these specific guns. It seems weird and random. Like, it also feels like these guns don't have to be possessed illegally. They're pretty benign guns. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe someday I'll actually care enough to read the whole story, but for now I just wanted to, I don't know, look at the guns and be like, what? That pretty much does it for us. We're wrapped up here. I'm curious. I want to hear from you guys. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it fun and helpful. And let me know what you think of the new segments down below. They're just going to get more fun and elaborate as we go. So, showing off guns, talking about weird, crazy stuff on the internet. We have a bunch of fun new segments that are also planned for the future that we'll hit in other podcasts. But until then, see you guys on the range.